Welcome to Destination Jamaica. Now, we did a little survey, and many people voted that they wanted us to cover the history of Jamaican Creole, what we call Patwa. So, it is our very own dialect, still not identified as a language. But before we get into it, let's speak about Jamaica, the little big island. Now, Jamaica has approximately 3 million people. We are an island. We're located in the Caribbean Sea. We are the third largest island in the Caribbean Sea after Cuba and Hispaniola. Jamaica is about 146 miles. That is 235 kilometers long and varies from 22 to 51 miles. That's about 35 to 82 kilometers wide. So it is situated some 100 miles west of Haiti, 90 miles south of Cuba, and 390 miles northeast of the nearest point on the mainland, Cape. Gracias a Dios. And you can find all that on the Caribbean coast of Central America. Of course, you know that the capital of Jamaica is Kingston currently, and we have 14 parish currently. But they're discussing to make Portmore another parish. So pretty soon we might have 15 parishes. Now let's speak about the history about Jamaica. How did Jamaica, the very first people here, who were they? So briefly, we're gonna say a little bit about that. The very first people of the land are called the Tainos or the Arawaks. And according to history, they came here about 2,500 years ago from South America. They saw Jamaica as the land of wood and water, and at the time they called Jamaica Jamaica. Now, Columbus came in 1494, and with Columbus came colonizations, and the very first colonizers of Jamaica were the Spaniards. Now, the Tainos were said to be mistreated, and also the European diseases basically wiped them off the island. Recent research shows, though, that Tainos still do exist. Now, after that, the Spaniards took over, and then the British saw Jamaica for more than what the Spaniards were using it for. They wanted Jamaica. So they came with the pirates and they took over. The Spaniards at the time, they fled to Cuba and they left their very first slaves here who became known as the very first Maroons, right? Now the British colonized Jamaica and more Africans came to Jamaica through the slave trade to work on the plantations. Africans were said to be cheap and durable labor. Now, of course, we don't like to hear that. It can be so painful recalling history, right? Especially when people are being treated as if they're some kind of things. So what happened is that the Africans came here and they were among their slave, masters. And with that, they had to somehow adapt, right? Essentially, people might say that they were stripped of their tongues. They had to learn the slave master's language. They came up with a pidgin. Well, the Patwa, that's the very first beginning of the Jamaican Creole. It started off as a pidgin. Now, the pidgin, that means it's a simplified form of a language, right? And different elements are taken from other languages. So we had the different slave masters and they combined words from the languages that they had on the island, mainly in English. And of course, we have the West African influences. So some of our, well, a majority of our non-English loan words in Patwa actually comes from the West African Akan language. And of course, you know that the Patois, the Jamaican Creole, is an English based dialect. So, Patois actually developed in the 17th century when slaves from West and Central Africa were exposed to, learn, and nativize the dialectal forms of English spoken by the slave holders, such as the British English, the Scots, and the Ibero, no, English. So the Jamaican Creole exhibits a gradation between more conservative Creole forms that are not significantly mutually intelligible with English and forms virtually identical to Standard English. So of course, it's different in how it's spoken. Like she will say she, I with or me will say me. If we're go, we say go. So those are some examples of some of the words that are similar to English, but not not English, right? The dialect itself, the Jamaican Creole, was often looked down on. It was something that was said not to be spoken in workplaces and, you know, formal places. As you may know, English, British English, is the official language of Jamaica. Makes sense because we were last colonized by the British. Um, and the popular language is Patois, right? So that's Jamaican Creole. So what happened is that some people might even recall being told not to speak the dialect, but to learn and master the English language. And it's a number of reasons for that. It's not just someone being ashamed, but wanting their kids to get more out of life because English was said to be or to make one marketable. So you were able to get jobs because you spoke or you wrote well. And English is one of the things we're required to pass in a high school. So they normally say if you don't have English, then you need to get it because no job no one hire you without that. I'm not sure what's happening in the current work world. I mean, it depends on what job you're taking. But I really think that we should actually embrace the Jamaican Patwa even more. It is our language, no matter what the world classifies it as. It's colorful, vibrant, just such a wonderful way of connecting with each other. Nothing feels better than hearing someone speak to you in a patois. When you go on the streets, you might say what's up or how are you? You say wagwan, and it feels so warm to speak to someone in patois. When you book your tour, you say cho, right? And when you're talking to your friends and family, you can't help it but boss patois. It's just it feels like home, home for our tongues. So that's a bit about the patois, where it's coming from. Of course, we're gonna do a part two where we're gonna really break down the dialect, as in the phonetics and the grammar and some other stuff as it relates to the Jamaican patois. But we wanted to do something short so that you could learn more about where patois is coming from. I know I mentioned that it started off as a pidgin. What happened is that the children of the African slaves, they developed the dialect even more, adding more to it in terms of words and structure and grammar. It's a grammar, so right, so that it could become what it is today. You might even notice that we have different forms. Like in the country, they might speak a deeper patois, right? And in Kingston, it might be more English based. So patois varies depending on where you are and also who you're speaking to. Also, we continue to develop the patois. You know, you might have some current slangs where you used to say back in the day, bridging, but now we call a friend party or magena or magie, right? So we continue to add to the patois to make it more current, and you know, people love have fun. I think it's such a creative way of speaking. All right, so let us know in the comments what you think about this video. It was mainly done by memory, and we hope that you learned something from it. We have more coming your way. Have a blessed night or a great day, depending on what time you're listening to this. And thank you so much for subscribing, for watching, for sharing, for commenting. You know, so this channel nice because of you, right? So big up to all of you, and take care of yourself. Stay upful, stay blessed, and we'll chat next time. Zine.